Greetings to all of you. Dear students, I wish to congratulate you first of all on the pursuit of your program, particularly a course called Organizational Behavior. I am here to address on a topic called work teams. I hope you would enjoy this particular topic as much as I would be doing. So, work teams is a very important topic for any management student, because tomorrow you are going to work with teams. Not only that, as you grow older and as you graduate to the next levels in your workplace as a manager, you would be responsible for the teams reporting to you. Therefore, as a primer, you first of all we would like to understand what is a work team. But actually, instead of addressing the word team, I would like to address it as a group first, and thereafter we will try to talk about what is called work group. I hope you would understand it, and then I will also be supporting you with materials, and as you go through this PowerPoint slide, and then you could also make some notes from this PowerPoint slide. So, let us start with what is a group. Though the topic is called work teams, team is also called a group. So, therefore, we will start with a group. What is a group? A group is a collection of two or more people together who interact regularly, share their common goals and influence each other. Now, you have to understand that it could be two or more people always. Remember that it should always be two or more people, but as the numbers keep increasing, it will be a very large group. So, therefore, would they really interact regularly? Do they really share common goals and influence each other? For example, is like that. Look at a marketing team. Now, they work together on a product launch campaign. Therefore, you would understand that the team comprising of quite a lot of youngsters, juniors and seniors, old and young, experienced and fresh people would be part of this team, and therefore, they should be willing to share, they should be willing to interact, and they should be willing to help each other. Otherwise, they should not be called a group. So, I would also give you one more classification of what is called a group. For example, we could call them formal groups, we would also call them informal groups. What do you mean by formal groups? These are all organized, established by the workplace demands. For example, a project team or a department should also be called a formal group. Likewise, informal groups are very natural, friendly. You would find personal relationships like when all friends get together for lunch, or when all friends get together for entertainment or a support group. Such groups are called informal. Understand that in every formal nature or any formal structure, you would also have an informal structure. In other words, in any formal group, it is a possibility that there could also be an informal group. So, let us find out why people would join groups. This is a very important point actually, why we should not be part of the groups. It is a very important question. Normally, some people try to be very lonely, but when they are lonely, they would know that they are making a mistake. They always crave for some association, some relationship, because it is a human nature that we should always be related to each other. It is a desire that we should always be wanting by others, and then we should also be wanting others to be part of us. That is a quite innate nature of human beings, because we are called gregarious beings. Gregarian means we will always be together. So, we are already part of a group called family. We are already part of a group called friendship. We are already part of a group called neighborhood community. We are already part of a group called classroom. We are already part of a group called workplace. So, right from the birth, you are part of a group, and then until you leave this world, you are always part of a group. So, therefore, you cannot escape group living. And then, as you are part of a group, what would happen? You would always feel very secure, because the group itself will protect you. For example, if you are part of a union in a workplace, union membership protects you against any kind of job loss or any kind of unfairness meted to you. Or for example, let us say there is inequality happening in your workplace. Now, these inequalities can be addressed by a union membership. So, therefore, this union would always safeguard your interests and rights and privileges. Likewise, Status is another reason as to why people join the groups, because if you are part of a group, it improves your prestige. So, it will also increase your recognition. So, therefore, part of being a group would always improve your status in the society. Likewise, it will also improve your self-esteem. What is self-esteem? How much of liking that you have for yourself, that is called self-esteem. So, being accepted boosts your confidence, and therefore, if you are part of a group, you would naturally realize your ability to interact with each other, prove yourself, your ideas, particularly as a result, it will improve your confidence. The next point, why people would join the groups? It is because it will improve your power. Believe me, without power, you cannot bring about change in your lives. You cannot bring about change in anybody's lives, and therefore, we must all have joined the groups because it gives us power. What does power further mean? Power also means that you have an ability to influence others, and then when you influence others, others would listen to you, and therefore you can accomplish the business goals or your personal goals. And without power, believe me, you cannot bring about any change anywhere in the world, even in your family level, even in your workplace level. So, therefore, power is a very, very important point as to why people join the groups. And finally, people join the groups because it helps them achieve their goals. Of course, we are part of a team, we must also contribute to the team's goals, and of course, teams contribute to the business goals. But we join teams or we join groups because it will help us to accomplish our personal goals. What is our personal goal? We definitely need a job, we definitely need an earning, we definitely need relationships, we definitely want to prove our worth, and therefore, achievement of goals has a much broader understanding. It includes very many things of our lives. With that, I hope you have some clarity. Now, let us go to the type of teams that we will be handling, either as a manager tomorrow on the job or as part of a team, being a member of a team. As I told you in the beginning of this session, there are two reasons as to why we must understand this subject. Number one, you are always part of a team as a member. Number two, you are also responsible for managing a team, you are also responsible for developing a team. So, and therefore, you are also responsible for achievements of the team. And as a manager, if you cannot understand various types of teams, it will be still struggling for you on the job. So, let us go ahead with what are these types of teams. Number one, functional team. This is a very, very basic fundamental type of a team with which we would be working tomorrow, either as a part of the team or as a managing those particular teams. So, what is this functional team? Now, as you know that traditionally in any workplace, you will have four types of teams. Number one, the marketing. Number two, the operations. Number three, the finance. And number four, the human resources. All these four put together called functions of management. So, therefore, a team in each of them is called a functional team. I am only giving a reference here as an example that finance team manages budgets. Remember, marketing team manages marketing aspects of the organization. Similarly, operations teams, they deal with day-to-day workplace productivity, they deal with production of goods and services, they deal with what is called quality and so on. Likewise, the HR team would deal with managing the people, recruitment, the conflicts at the workplace, interpersonal relationships, helping employees engage themselves in their workplaces so that they enjoy working with the working in their organizations. So, therefore, functional teams are very, very important teams. Every one of us would be members of any of these four functions tomorrow on the job. As probably some of you are working, you might be already part of a finance team or an HR team or an operations team or a marketing team. Now, with that, we move on to the next team called problem solving teams. These are very, very important teams which are spread across all the organization. Every nook and corner of the organization, you would find these teams, and particularly in the shop floor. If you had ever seen a manufacturing facility, you would have noticed that there are people called quality control teams. Now, what is the job of this team? Exclusively, they will try to understand what are the deviations in the workflow, any disruptions in the workflow, and therefore, they will identify what are the defects or what are the deviations in the work processes, the quality of the material used, the quality of the output of that material and the finished goods. So their job is to understand what are the problems persisting in the entire workflow. Wherever there is a problem in the workflow, they will have to address those issues, and that is why that is called a problem solving team. I can give you an example. In one company where I had an opportunity to interact with the operations head. Now in this company, they manufacture electrical transformers, which you would find them on the roadside near the poles. Every colony beginning you would find one transformer, or maybe you would also find one transformer at any apartments that you would be part of. So what is this transformer? It will step down high voltage to the lower voltage, so that that lower voltage could be supplied to the households, and people can use that power set for their regular usage. Now this transformer manufacturing is very peculiar. So these transformers, when finally manufactured, they would pour some oil into that, and therefore that oil would be cooling down this transformer during the electricity supply. Now how to pour this oil into that huge transformer at the manufacturing place? The employees had a problem. So what these employees who are working on this transformer, they came out with one solution, that instead of pouring the oil into such a big transformer, and in the process they spill some oil, falls here and there, and then it is very unsafe for people, because they will slip away and fall down. So therefore, how to pour the oil into such a massive transformer while climbing over a ladder is very risky. So this employees group, they came out with a very interesting solution. So what did they do? They have invented an electric pump, a motor pump, which can pump the oil from a barrel into the transformer directly. And then how would you know whether the oil is completely to the brim of the transformer? So what did they do? They perforated one huge hole on top of the transformer, and then they seal it with one glass piece, through which they can see whether the oil has come to one particular level or not. And this is the way they have fixed one major problem for several years they were suffering from. So problem solving teams are very interesting, and I am sure, I hope every one of you should be part of these teams, because when you solve problems, your maturity increases. Likewise, we move on to the third type of team called functional, cross-functional teams. Now as I told you, functional team is all about being part of one major function, either called finance, marketing, operations, HR. But when you say cross-functional teams, you are part of one function to the other function. In other words, it is also possible that you might be belonging to HR team, marketing team, or a finance team, but all such people come together and work on some special purpose. They are called cross-functional team. For example, one HR manager, one marketing manager, one finance manager, one operations manager, when they come together to address one particular project or an issue in their workplaces, it should be called a cross-functional team, because all these people's ideas are equally important. Now I worked in the hospitals for long years, so therefore I had seen, interestingly, in hospitals what happens when a patient is in the operation theatre, one doctor who is a neurosurgeon, another doctor who is a cardiologist, another doctor who is a nephrologist, another doctor who is a let us say gastroenteritis, and another doctor who is called let us say diabetologist or endocrinologist, and there would be another doctor called anesthetist. All these people, when they come together and work on one particular patient, this is a classic example of a cross-functional team. Likewise, we can take many workplaces, but I hope if you had understood this one illustration, you can relate it to even hotels, you can even relate it to many other workplaces. So with that, I hope we should be moving on to the next one called self-managed teams. These are very interesting teams, because these are highly matured teams. The members in these groups are called highly experienced, highly achieved members, because these people independently operate everything in a workplace. They are called self-managed teams. Otherwise, in other functions, in other teams, you definitely need a supervisor. A boss is a supervisor, whereas in self-managed teams, you do not need a supervisor. They work independently. You just have to tell them what to do. They will design everything, they will plan everything, they will execute everything, they will only direct everything, they will only control everything. That is the beauty of being a self-managed team. But these teams are very rare. Finally, we move on to the most popular type of team, which even today we find them, in practice called virtual teams. So, what is a virtual team? The members are not known to each other, or even if they are known to each other, they do not work at one place face to face with each other. They are all scattered across different places, or they may be scattered across the world. So, let us say my Japanese counterpart, my Chinese counterpart, my South Korean counterpart, my Arabian counterpart, or my American counterpart, or a German counterpart. We are all working on a project, but we are all scattered in different countries, different locations, different time zones. So, how should we work together? So, we definitely need technology platforms, we definitely need what you call web conferencing or video conferencing technologies or platforms, wherein we will be interacting with each other on a given particular assignment. So, that is what we sum up. Let me conclude once again. The types of teams are functional team, the problem solving team, the cross functional team, the self managed team, and then the virtual teams. Now, all these teams are possibilities. What does it mean? You might be part of any of these teams as of now, or you may be part of them any of these teams in the future as you graduate from one position to the other profession. I hope you would all be interested in working with the teams. Believe me, if you are part of a team, it improves your personality. If you want to be lonely, it will shun your personality caves in, that means it does not develop well. So, always relate yourself to the members, always be part of the teams, and then teams will enhance your personality. So, with that I hope you have understood fundamentals of working with a team, but let us go to a concept called model of working with the groups or teams. You can even replace that word, because what is the difference between a group and a team? Groups are relatively permanent. That means the members come together and work for a common purpose for a very, very long time. For example, you are part of one department for long years, 20 years, 30 years. But if you are asked to go and contribute to some project of your company, similarly somebody else from other groups, other departments are called to go and report to that project, such group is called a team. So, what does it mean? Teams are also groups, but teams are temporary. Once the purpose is fulfilled, they fade away. What does it mean? What if a project is to be carried out in some village? So, the experts from all the departments from your company would go to that village, finish the project, come back to them. As long as they are doing that project, they are called a team. Once they go back to their respective workplaces, they are still called a group. So, what does it mean? Teams are temporary, whereas works are relatively long term. Now, I am giving you one model called how to work with teams or groups tomorrow on the job. What if you are suddenly promoted to a level of manager, let us say, or head of the department? Now, it is a tough challenge, because all this time you are part of a group or a team, but now on you are supposed to supervise a team, and then you are responsible for the growth and development of the team, and you are also responsible for the effectiveness of the team. That means they contribute to the business goals. So, how do you work with them? So, I propose a model here. You can see this here. In this model, there are three sets of concepts. Instead of using the word variables, I am using the word concepts. So, what are these three sets of concepts? First one is called formation concepts, second one is called interaction or development concepts, and the third one is called effectiveness concepts. So, formation concept, development concept, and effectiveness concept. So, now we will move on to that model. Let us see the model. I hope it is visible to all of you. You can see in this model, the first block is called the formation concepts. That means the first two boxes. Can you see that? First box is called the size of the group, second one is called the nature of task of the group. So, these are the two concepts put together is called formation concept. How groups form, or how do you form the group? Now, here you can see that groups are formed based on the number. First point is called the size. So, this is what we call the size, similarity, compatibility, and then personal development reasons, and then finally personal goals. So, why people join groups or teams? Because of these reasons. For example, some of us may be comfortable working in a small group, whereas some others are comfortable working with large groups. I would ask you this question, how many of you are really comfortable working with a large group? What is a large group? An ideal group size is called 8. If it is less than 8, people might like comfortable because small groups makes people comfortable. But what if the group is above 8 or a maximum of 30? Because tomorrow if you are a boss, you might be responsible for 30 people reporting to you. I have also seen in my own work experiences, sometimes a manager is supervising around 300 employees. Very difficult, no? How do you ensure that every member in this group of 300 are growing, are developing, and their personality is improving, and they are also contributing to the business goals? How do you ensure that? So it's a very tough challenge, I am telling you. For anybody, when you become a manager, the toughest challenge that you would ever face is called working with the group. That means groups are being supervised by you. So you decide, would you like to say that a small group is productive or large groups are productive? Just answer it. I don't want to answer on my own, but I would leave it to you. Do you think that a small group is more productive or large group is more productive? I don't have any conclusive evidence from any research in the past until today. Small groups could be equally productive, large groups could be equally productive. You say that small groups means less conflicts, large group may be having more productivity, because more number of people contributing, therefore naturally it will be more productivity. So, but that is what you have to make a choice. If you are given, let us say, a small group of people, how do you manage them? Likewise, if you are given a large group of people, how do you manage them? Because large group means don't be intimidated, you are still the boss, so they should be listening to you. Now, members also could like to join any group because of the similarities. What does it mean, or compatibilities? What does it mean? We always want to be part of a group where all members are very similar to us, maybe age groups, maybe gender, maybe we are all Telugu people, so all Telugu people part of that group, or Tamilians part of the group, or Malayalis are part of this group, or Hindi speaking fellows are part of this group. Do you think if people are belonging to one similar characteristic would be more productive, or when people are dissimilar, that means more heterogeneous, when they are all different by their backgrounds, do you think such people will be more productive? You can raise this and then find an answer to that. I hope could do that. So, try to find answers to all the questions which I am raising. Now, personal characteristics. There are many, like as I told you, age, gender, qualifications, locations to which I belong, and similarly so many personal characteristics like these which I have told you just before. Do you think when people have similar personal characteristics, they should be more productive? For example, if young and old people are together, do you think they will be more productive? Or all young people will be more productive? Or all old people will be more productive? If you have noticed today, governments across the world are encouraging retirees to come back and work. Do you think all retirees would be more productive? In that sense, we are also discouraging employment of youngsters. So, different issue altogether, but what I am trying to say, if all young people are brought together, do you think they will be more productive? So, what I am trying to say finally, whether either they are all young or all old, or whether it is a mixture of young and old, it is for you as a manager to ensure that they are all working together. You might be young fellow, but you may be supervising some old people tomorrow, but you do not feel arrogant, because you are not supposed to address those issues. So, you also have to be understanding that you have a legal position, you are responsible for the team's growth, you are also responsible for the business goals. Likewise, people like to join certain groups for personal reasons. They think that if I am part of this group, I can very successfully finish my work. But they do not like to go to some other groups because those groups are not really encouraging them. They feel so uncomfortable. So, these are some of the membership concepts or member related concepts that helps people form groups. As a manager, you could also pay attention to these concepts for forming the groups. Now, if you look at the other side of this model, it is called the nature of task. Very important, people are part of the groups because of the nature of job that they are. Now, for example, some people like to work in a physical environment which is very harsh. Let us say, for example, if you are part of a marketing team is always in the streets, they are always traveling guys, that is the physical environment. So, you think that everybody likes to travel 15 days to 18 days in a month? Marketing people does that, hardly 10 days they are in the city. What if they are married? What would happen to their family members? So do you think people would join marketing function because it involves traveling? So they might not like be part of this group if they have family reasons. Maybe unmarried people, youngsters, bachelors, they might like to be part of this group. So but as a manager, you have to understand that if you want to supervise a marketing group, you have to address these issues. Likewise, let's look at the environment. Some people would like to work in an organizational environment where there is lot of flexibility or a lot of rigidity. So we have to address those issues. Do you think people would like to work in workplaces which are all long hours of work or 8-hour standard time? So some people make choices. I don't want to be promoted. I don't like to be promoted to the next position because in the next position I have to stay for more than 12 hours in a workplace. So most of the women I have seen, they don't want to become managers because they have lot of family needs. They want to go home early and pay attention to their needs. But if they are promoted to a manager position, they have to overstay in the workplace to see that all the subordinates finish their work. So purposefully they avoid promotions. Not only that, I have seen in banks, bank employees avoid promotions, and because promotions are coupled with transfers. So how do they do it? So as a manager, you have to understand all of these issues. Probably I will come back in the next video session wherein I will address those dynamics called group dynamics. Today I am only talking about in this session how the groups form. So when these two concepts interact, the groups form. Now when the groups form, you are responsible for their development. What does it mean? Groups develop their communication patterns, groups develop their role structures, groups develop certain norms which are called expectations, how to behave in a group. Groups also develop cohesiveness, which is called the willingness to stick together, that is called cohesiveness. And groups also develop leadership within so that they can provide direction. So once groups developed, they are ready for work, they are ready for launching. So once they are launched, they go to the company wide, they start contributing to the work goals, and finally they will be successful. And when the groups are successful, we call them effective groups. So what is effectiveness? The extent to which a group accomplishes the purpose for which it was developed. It was formed and it was developed. Now the question is, before I conclude, we have hardly few minutes to go. Now in this effectiveness, I have a question called effectiveness for whom? Is it for the individuals or is it for the company? So I would say both. Effectiveness also means member satisfaction. That means all members of the groups must be satisfied, and finally they must also accomplish the task for which they were designed. So thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed learning this model, and then next session I will come back with more details on what are called group dynamics, how the groups interact with each other, how their roles develop, how their communication patterns develop, how their norms develop, how the cohesiveness develop, how the leadership develops, what kind of conflicts they address, how they overcome those conflicts. Those issues we will address. So thank you very much for your patient listening. I hope you have enjoyed this learning as much as I have enjoyed sharing this material with you. Once again, thanks and happy learning.